Let's go. Are modern Bible translators and King James only critics demon possessed? Did Gail Riplinger, author of New Age Bible Versions, locate a Bible translator who was in the third stage of this demon possession and served on the New American Standard Version Committee? Was this scribe silenced when he came against the King James Bible, when he came against New Age Bible Versions by Gail Riplinger? Was he silenced publicly through the power of prayer? We're going to be delving into a very interesting subject that has haunted my mind for some time, let me tell you. It's been a great controversy, to coin a phrase with Ellen White. Here, let me show you the thumbnail real quick. We're not going to necessarily talk about Christian ghosts yet, so hang on. Don Wilkins, the guy on the top, the white hair, not me. The guy in the white hair on the top, Don Wilkins. Did he lose his ability to speak at the Ankerberg Show recording live right there, talking on a panel of modern version defenders against a panel of King James only advocates? I believe Joseph Chambers, Sorensen, possibly David Sorensen. I can't remember who that other guy was, and Sam Gipp. And then on the other side, you had Dan Wallace, Don Wilkins, James White, and maybe one other guy. I don't remember. Gail was invited. She was invited to come defend her book there on the Ankerberg Show. I really wish that she had. It could have been a much longer discussion. It could have been so much more interesting. But she saw it as a trap, and she did not go. Such weird things. And I have not prepared a lot for this stream, but I've got some things to talk about for sure. I haven't gotten into all of it, and I want to see more about this in the future. I'd heard Sam Gipp say that Wilkins lost his voice when he was asked, of all things, if Bible translators were dying prematurely, losing their voice, their ability to speak, these different things, right there on the Ankerberg Show. Question posed to him by John Ankerberg and Sam Gipp and Joseph Chambers both have backed up for years that Don Wilkins went to reply and he said, I can't speak. He couldn't speak. That's what they've said for years. Sam Gipp has said multiple times on multiple videos, responding to James White, who was also there. James White said that is not what happened. He had a little catch in his throat, and he's like, oh, I can't speak. And they all kind of laughed. He took a little drink of water, and they went on. Sam Gipp has said multiple times that it was a serious thing that was taped over by John Ankerberg, by his direction. and that it was some kind of supernatural thing where somebody who came against the King James Bible was supernaturally silenced. It is an interesting idea, but James White said over and over and over again, probably about as many times as Sam Gipp said it, that it was just that little catch in the throat, took a drink of water, and it was done, it was over, and goodbye. I don't know why my printer just woke up, but it did. Wife must be printing something. So, I did something the other day that I was not expecting. I noticed that this person had a birthday. I was friends with him, and he had a birthday coming up, like right then. It was on his birthday, and I was like, well, I think I might just shoot him a little message, and we'll see if I get a reply back. Who was this person who had a birthday? It was Don Wilkins himself, the guy that apparently lost his voice. Let's read a little bit about what was said in Gail Riplinger's book, New Age Bible Versions, and the context surrounding it, and then you're going to find out exactly what Don Wilkins said. Don Wilkins, not Sam Gipp going, oh my goodness, and not James White going, oh my goodness. Don Wilkins, the guy that apparently lost his voice, according to Sam Gipp, Joseph Chambers, and Gail Riplinger. Gail Riplinger, who was not there, and Joseph Chambers and Sam Gipp, who were. Let's take a look. And yeah, that'll work. I'm going to put myself down. I'm so self-deprecating here. Just keep putting myself down. There I go. All right. Now I'm out of the way. This is discussed in chapter 32 of New Age Bible Versions 2021. Silent scribes summon psychology. Is it scriptural to believe God took men like Westcott, Hort, Lightfoot, Phillips, and catapulted them to the position of the greatest influence over the body of Christ, that of Bible correctors? Is it possible? Gail Riplinger asks the question later on in the first section of this chapter, possessed. G.W. Balfour, president of the Society for Psychical Research, characterized a spiritualist or channel as a plurality of minds associated with a single organism. Reference 1. I want to check that reference because not quite sure that that is necessarily the case. Because that would be... I don't know. There might be some nuance there, and I really want to see the context of that. Anyways, moving on. The Legion of Devils in Luke 8 and Mark 5 are two different things that she mentions. The possession of legion. Symptoms of possession are shown in the New Testament, and these include 1, 2, and 3. Profession. That's an imitation. No idea exactly what's going on. Obsession, regression, depression, they all rhyme. Deliriation. I need to delve into this chapter. This is one that not a lot of people have dealt with a lot either. So, if we go down to regression, this is the one where Ankerberg found what... I think it was the one where Ankerberg found it. Either that or it was on the back cover. I forget. This is part 3, where she gets into the idea of scribes or Bible translators or what have you getting a frog in their throat, like Revelation 16:13. And Luke 11, where it talks about the devil and a dumb spirit, where they couldn't talk. A third symptom which accompanies spiritual possession in the Bible is the inability to speak. Inability to speak does not always, however, indicate demon possession. It can. It can. There's a lot of other things that can cause that, however. And it's not just demon possession where just like you're just completely overrun. It could be what some people have termed oppression. May or may not be very biblical. We'll have to look into that further. She talked about B.F. Westcott in the one part, I believe. And the guy that translated the Living Bible, Taylor. Now, when we get down to chapter 4, or page 495, this is NASB 1995, A Warning. And I'm not sure, but I think the Ankerberg fiasco, as she has called it. Yeah, see Westcott and Hort, Westcott and Tregellis, and Eugene Peterson, and J.B. Phillips, and all these people. Apparently, they all had struggles with their speech. So, here's what New Age Bible Version says, talking about the infamous Don Wilkins. Often, diminution, that's making smaller, of speech is slow, yet progressive. NASB translator Don Wilkins may have experienced a warning when he temporarily lost his voice on a television program. When asked, do new version translators lose their voices, John Ankerberg, host of the television show, the televised Ankerberg Show, called and asked if I would be a guest on his show, along with the chief editors and translators of new versions, i.e. Kenneth Barker, Arthur Farstad, Don Wilkins, Daniel Wallace, and James White, a new version proponent who sports a big tattoo. I don't remember seeing James White's tattoo, but he may have a tattoo, I'm not sure. New Age Bible Versions has caused no small stir, and the translators wanted to stop it. So they were like, New Age Bible Versions is an evil book, and we must stop it from our good plans. We have good plans. According to Gail, they would be evil plans, but anyways. I agreed to be on the program with them, giving as my only stipulation that the exchange be timed so that I was not unfairly given less time, and that I be able to set up my own recording equipment in addition to his. They flatly refused to debate me because it was not supposed to be a debate. It wasn't a debate, it was more of a discussion, it was more back and forth. It wasn't what they wanted. And yes, they did refuse. They refused to debate me, so that means that they didn't think that they could debate the wonderful Gail Riplinger because, you know, she's so much better of a scholar than they were, and they couldn't answer any of her points legitimately, so they obviously turned her down in debate. That's kind of the implication. I kind of highly doubt that that's exactly how it went, but we'll keep going. They refused to debate me, and soon cajoled several other King James-only proponents to agree to an untimed free-for-all. That's more probably what they had in the works anyways, because they invited her to something. They didn't invite her to a debate. And if they had... Now, this is just me thinking out loud as I'm reading New Age Bible Versions. If they had wanted to debate her, they wouldn't have refused her having equal time. So the settling for an untimed free-for-all or whatever, or it cajoling several other King James-only proponents to agree to an untimed free-for-all, this scenario doesn't exactly track in my mind when I'm trying to read this. where the New Version editors were given free rein to speak most of the time and interrupt any solid responses by the KJV proponents. Okay, there was interruptions all over the place by everybody, as far as I am aware. And also, I will say that I have not watched the entire thing. I have watched pieces of it from YouTube. I want to watch the entire thing, and I'm not sure if it is all available on YouTube, but if it is, I want to watch it. I really got to watch it. So this is what Gail says after they figured out what they were going to be doing. This is like this is the 3 days before it actually happened. I fasted for 3 days prior to the taping of the programs, praying that the Lord would prevail, and more specifically, that a New Version editor would lose his ability to speak, as other New Version editors had, and I had documented in New Age Bible versions. So she claimed, I don't remember her saying this on a recording, that she prayed that they would lose her ability to speak. I do remember her praying, but I don't remember her saying that she prayed for that. She says it in writing, however. Lo and behold, when the cameras were rolling, Ankerberg asked Donald Wilkins, a NASB translator, what he thought of my claim that translators had lost their ability to speak. Wilkins could not speak to answer! Exclamation mark. Right there. Ankerberg immediately called for the film to be stopped and backed up, expunging the shocking incident forever, to the strong objections of the KJV proponents witnessing the marked intervention of God. So to be clear, this is the claim of Joseph Chambers, Sam Gipp, and Gail Riplinger, that they had like VHS tapes in their camcorders, and when they backed it up, it completely erases everything that was put there. I would think more like, cut. All right, let's get this done. All right, start again. That's what I would think of happening. Anyhow, I have not been familiar with that type of recording equipment because I am part of a digital age, and the function of analog things, I have a little bit of experience, but not a lot, and it's kind of foreign to me. So she's probably right. I mean, she would have used the equipment back in the day. Anyhow, Wilkins' silenced scribe syndrome was temporary. A warning, perhaps. 8 programs totaling 3 hours and 45 minutes were filmed in the exchanges between the New Version editors and the KJV proponents. But most of the TV programs were not aired. So like on the television, publicly. Ankerberg's major TV outlet dropped him entirely after the first 2 of these anti-KJV programs, due to the public outcry rising from the fact that the New Version proponents spoke almost all the time, allowing a mere 3 KJV supporters to scarcely respond at all. After Wilkins regained his voice, Ankerberg asked him a different question about other documentation in New Age Bible versions. Wilkins haughtily replied, clearing his throat, sipping water, and nervously joking about losing his voice earlier. Since the telling film clip in which the New American Standard Bible editor could not speak was taped over, the New Version editors and proponents are free to pretend that the incident never occurred, even lying and claiming that the later clip of Wilkins, where he is merely clearing his throat, was the missing dramatic footage. Okay? God knows. God knows. The KJV proponents, who were not 6 feet away from Wilkins when he lost his voice, have gone on record witnessing to the warning God gave the NASB's Don Wilkins. So that would be what Gail has called a warning to Don. And unfortunately, the 2 videos that she puts links in here for are not available anymore. I couldn't even find the videos on YouTube anymore. They weren't just re-uploaded someplace else. They just, the title, the subject does not seem to exist anymore online. It may be somewhere else. It may be on somebody's website. I do not know. The James White Cover-Up, ! By Sam Gipp, 2009. That's got a link here that is not active anymore, sadly, because I would love to watch that. Sam Gipp's, he said several different times he went through the story and everything. So, I mean, probably. And I can see this is turning more into probably the entire episode, so we'll save the discussion of what me and Phil Stringer talked about for another time, probably the next one. So stay tuned, subscribe, and all that, so you find out when we do it. Tex Mars interviews Pastor Joe Chambers. That is also not active, and she gives the link for it, and it doesn't link. I'm working on a page where I give those links. I also have a playlist on our channel called Silent Scribes that you guys can check out, where I've put together different videos that I found on the subject of the Ankerberg fiasco, as it has been dubbed by Gail. I'm going to be putting that link for the playlist on the website. That playlist is on our YouTube channel. It's several shorter videos, and that's that. I guess you could say the rest is history. Those are the only instances where Don Wilkins is mentioned in New Age Bible versions on these 2 pages. That's 495 and 496. We'll be getting more into that on the page that we create. I've started it this evening, but have not had time to flesh it out very much. Also, playing a video back with our system doesn't usually work very well. So I'm probably not going to do that either, which I know. I will put a link to the playlist in the description. And hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Let's see, we're going to go to the channel. Okay. So I'll remember to do that later. Alrighty. Now, here's what Don Wilkins said. So, just so the entire conversation that I had with Don is not a distraction, I won't put that up right now. I won't put that screen up, so it's, So I put, happy birthday. By the way, how's your voice? With a greeny face. And he said, as good as anyone else my age, I suppose. Winky face. I said, nice. And I mentioned, that it was because of the Ankerberg Show and things that I asked. And he said, same here. As far as pleased to meet you, by the way. Greeny face again. And he says, same here. And I'll put the relevant quotations from Don Wilkins on the webpage, so stay tuned for that. Same here. I didn't lose my voice. I didn't lose my voice, in quotes, the way those guys mean it. I had a problem clearing my throat, and Ankerberg decided to stop the program and cut it. So in other words, cut, not like go snip the tape. One or two of the other guys said he should have kept it going, and I agree. I don't like to do recorded interviews because I prefer to research questions/issues and craft a good written reply. Anyway, I think Ankerberg did eventually release the uncut version, and I did do a recorded interview a few years ago. Also, I don't know. I didn't know Riplinger had a response to the show. She should have had the guts to show up, if I may say so. I had her book with me. And I told her that I told him that Blind Guides was her main response to pretty much all of her criticism, and that he can get a PDF of it from the website, or he can order a copy from Gail. The PDF also from Gail, obviously. And let's see. I sent him a screen capture of what I just read to you, and also a YouTube link to what really happened during the John Ankerberg Show DVD by Sam Gipp. And this is his reply. I guess this is typical of Riplinger. I had several pages of her book marked to show how she misquotes and misleads readers, but Ankerberg also, excuse me, that's what you get for drinking sparkling lemonade while you're recording. Let's see. But Ankerberg stopped. Okay. But Ankerberg also stopped the discussion in the middle of that presentation and scolded me for taking too much time. A little ironic because he gave the NIV guy loads of time. That's kind of sad. Gave me no choice but to come up with something else very quick and to show how Riplinger distorts the truth. And I did happen to have a quick one that I shared. As to her warning nonsense, that would be the warning that would have been issued to Don from the Almighty upon his doubting soul. Riplinger distorts the truth, and I did happen to have a quick one that I shared. As to her warning nonsense, it's now been close to 30 years, and other than sounding here we go. Got it. It just took me a second to realize what the sentence was saying. As to her warning nonsense, it has been close to 30 years, and other than sounding older, no doubt, I'm fine. I wonder how she and Sam Gipp sound. As far as I'm aware, everybody involved in the entire thing still has their voices completely, even though most of them are in their 70s and 80s and older. So, oh, and then he says at the end, and the KJV-O position remains what it has always been. And that's something that I'm just like, you're right. I'm King James only. I am textually King James only, and I think that the King James translators did a fantastic job, that God guided their translations. There are some spots, like I've said before, that I've been like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or like the false friends thing with Mark Ward, where he talks about how they have they're in the King James translation. There are words that mean something now that they didn't mean then, and how when we read it, we're just like, oh, we think one thing, like comfort is a good example. I looked that up recently in the old dictionaries and in, like the OED and all these different things. And yeah, comfort had nothing to do with, oh, they're there. Back then, that kind of idea, like Gail seems to think it did when you read New Age Bible versions. It didn't mean that at all. We'll get into that more in future videos. It really meant help, like aiding, giving aid and comfort to the enemy. That it's the idea of help. So anyways, we'll talk about that at some point. Outside of that, that's where I am at with the King James Bible, with King James onlyism, and with everything else like this. And like he said, the King James only position remains what it's always been. If there is some kind of psyop or whatever, this is just me thinking out loud. Say, the families or what have you invent King James onlyism to serve a purpose as kind of a guise, a scapegoat, a red herring, I don't know, something like this, to distract people from the actual changes that they're making in the Bible, like the legit ones, like the New Order of Barbarians talks about. If that is the case, and King James onlyism, as it is modernly represented, is a psyop, and it just turned out to not be what they needed it to be, it just really kind of, folds in on itself. It spreads, but it doesn't really do the work. It remains what it's always been, all that kind of stuff. It gets perpetuated, obviously. But, because I think it's a definite possibility that we could be part of a psyop, guys. Just saying. I think the flat earth stuff as well is part of a psyop. I think the Mandela effect is also a part of a psyop. I think, actually, one thing that I've been working on, and I'm not quite sure what y'all think about it yet or not, I mentioned it a couple of times, I think that the Mandela effect is picking up for, the order or the families or whatever. I think that the Mandela effect is actually picking up what King James onlyism could not do, and is kind of like a refreshed anti-Bible change thing that is actually a lot more effective than King James onlyism to serving their purposes. So I do definitely think that the Mandela effect is a thing that they made on purpose to serve their purposes. King James onlyism, I'm starting to think that we were supposed to be what they wanted. Am I saying King James onlyism is bogus? No. Obviously, I'm King James only, still King James only. But I think that a lot of the arguments that we have, a lot of the the points that we have, and as well as the arguments, the actual arguments that we have, and a lot of the inaccuracies that we've really held on to for no reason. Not inaccuracies in the King James Bible, but inaccuracies in our argumentation to defend it. I think that there's a game afoot, and I'm looking forward to digging deeper, thinking outside the box drawn by King James only advocates, many of them whom are very old and many of them who are dead, trying to think outside the box. Because I think there's a Bible version conspiracy, and I don't think that we're immune just because we're King James only. Something else interesting that Don said. I had a few other questions for him that I might get into some other time. Well, is what he said. Well, I find it hard to believe that people other than KJVOs care about this stuff anymore, and I know that no one can say changes their minds, except for the few that have switched. Unfortunately, I am too busy with Bible Trans, that's translating, abbreviation, and related work, and don't have time to go back and research Riplinger's stuff. I do remember James White telling me that at the time that Riplinger had her own way of analyzing and justifying things so that facts didn't matter to her. That's interesting. In light of the chapter. Ironically, I also had a good friend who is KJVO and told me verbatim, "Don't confuse me with the facts. I have made up my mind." If I recall correctly, the most ridiculous thing I heard at the debate, he called it a debate. I would say it was a debate, but it wasn't a formal timed debate. Oh, his thing that he saw as the most ludicrous, and I kind of was like, well, this is, I think, what he meant. So for what that's worth. The thing that he thought was the most ridiculous was Sam Gipp's claim that the KJV is better than the original languages from which it was translated. So it's basically inspired from his POV. Nonsense. So the thing with Sam Gipp is that when he says that it's superior, he gives like 9 different reasons. The first one is that we have the King James Bible and we don't have the originals. That's not saying that the King James Bible is more inspired. Also, it's in English, and you can read English, so it's superior for you, because it's not in Koine Greek. So that's another reason that it's superior, not saying it's more inspired. And another reason that he gave is that you can have multiple copies of a translation, of the King James translation, of any translation. That would make any translation superior to the original languages, which are not available. That's another way that the translation or the King James Bible is superior without it being more inspired. Just saying. He has his points and everything. I don't know if he was able to lay them all out there like he usually does. But I have to watch the video and see how that all worked out for him. Okay. Oh, I think that's basically from Don what I had for you. The last question that I asked him pertains to what I have dubbed just a moment ago, the chapter. And I think those of you that have hung around this channel long enough know what the chapter is. For those of you that haven't, it's in New Age Bible versions. And from everything that I've looked at in this chapter, none of it pans out. It's an interesting chapter. And I'm still working on that page that takes everything point by point. It's a long page. And I can, the worst thing about it, takes even longer. I can only edit it on my phone because my 8 gigs of RAM laptop can't handle it. The page is too long. But my phone has 12 gigs of RAM, and it can do it, but on a phone, even with Samsung DeX, it's very tedious. So please stay tuned for that. And if you want to help us upgrade our tech, check out our Buy Me a Coffee link. buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Armstrong. Check out the wish list, and you can add a few bucks and help us on our way to upgrading our laptop situation. So that's that for Don Wilkins. Let's see. I don't think I would actually be able to play the video. I'll leave you guys to watch the playlist on your own. Form your own opinions. The thing is that I tried to watch all of the videos years ago that pertained to this discussion. And at the end of it, it literally came down to, who do you trust? Do you trust Joseph Chambers and Sam Gipp? Or do you trust James White, Don Wilkins, John Ankerberg? And do you trust the modern version Bible correctors, or do you translate the saintly King James only people? Do you trust the crazy radical King James only cultists, or do you trust the saintly modern version translators? Whichever side of the debate you're on, it comes down to trusting the people that you agree with, really. To my understanding of technology and recording equipment currently, not the system that they would have had with John Ankerberg. The only way that this could have been covered up is if reversing that tape actually overwrit history and ruined it for everybody. That's the only way. And I will also say that from what I remember of James White's videos, the Don Wilkins clearing the throat, oh, I lost my voice, take a sip of water and stuff, that was not originally issued in the first edition of the Ankerberg Show recording that was sold, but it was in later editions. So that would make sense that it would be the lost fiasco thing. But I don't know. I wasn't there. Gail wasn't there. Tex Mars wasn't there. There were a lot of people that weren't there, and there's a lot of us that don't know and are going off the word of people that were there. The thing, though, is that it's kind of weird, because the thing is that Gail presents it as initially as, and this is a conflict. If you can help me out with this, that'd be great. In the comments, leave your thoughts, please. Don Wilkins is supposed to have been demon possessed at first and lost his voice because of a dumb spirit or whatever. Not being able to speak spirit, obviously. And then God is supposed to be issuing him a warning and silencing him because of prayer. I think that they can work together. There's a way for those two ideas to work together. They don't have to be contradictory, I don't think. But there's kind of... Hang on one second. Closing the door real quick. There's kind of a conflict, I think, with the idea that God silenced Wilkins and the idea that he was somehow possessed or something. Because that's the context of the chapter. If you read it and you look at the chapter, Not just the back of the book, not just the introduction, and not just whatever. And the context says two different things. And by the way, this whole idea with Don Wilkins and the lost voices or whatever, that all happens after New Age Bible versions, after New Age Bible versions is published for the first time. So New Age Bible versions is published. It doesn't have the thing about Don Wilkins in it because it didn't happen yet. And it goes to the Ankerberg Show and all this. The whole thing happens, and then in later editions, it comes in. So that may be where the inconsistency comes in, because you have the context that was already there originally, being demon possession, this and that, and then Don Wilkins loses his voice, and then God's brought into the picture of warning Don Wilkins because he didn't lose his voice permanently, and warning Don Wilkins because Gail prayed for somebody to lose their voice. I don't know. Crazy stuff. I would love to go back in time and just be there and watch that. That would be interesting. If it happened in 95, I was 3 years old, so I couldn't really have taken in the whole situation as it was. It'd be so bad, but if somebody remote viewed that, I would actually be interested in what they see. But anyways, just saying. All right, we've been going for about an hour. I think that's probably good. And there's so much more to say on this issue. So much more that has been said, so many things to put together on this, and I'm looking forward to getting that all done for you guys and putting it on our website. But as I have said a bazillion times before, it's at a snail's pace because I work full-time at a hardware store, and I come home and I've got 4 kids under 6, and it's not easy to get anything done. But we do what we can. And I appreciate very much the people, like those of you that are actually, some of you that are actually watching right now, that actually support what we do financially. I appreciate it so much. And if you want to jump on the wagon, check out the links in the description. I'm not here to beg for money. But for those of you that saw my videos way back in 2011, 2009, maybe even, was it 2009? I don't remember when I first started uploading to YouTube. Those of you that saw me way back then, and those of you that see me now, covered a lot of ground. And it hasn't been easy, but it's been fun, and I would love to do this all the time. And I shall finish this recording and go talk with the co-conspirators who are within our little members group that we have started. I'm hoping that once we reach at least 1,000 subscribers, or whenever it actually happens, that we'll be able to set up membership on YouTube. When we do that, it'll be so much easier for us to actually get the member stuff available for the members. Have every other episode or something like this be or like a secret stream or a secret live stream or whatever, and then just have these there so that people can be like, oh yeah, I'd like to watch that, but I can't. And then I think that'll be neat. Right now we're with the Buy Me a Coffee stuff, and there has been some streams recently that, I'm sorry, those of you that aren't co-conspirators, that you don't know about. There's been things talked about that you have not heard, and you probably won't hear for a good time. Just saying. Just saying. If you want to be part and parcel of all of that, if you want to be privy to it, if you want to ask me questions or whatever, please just email me. If you want to be part of, everything that we do, everything that I post, part of that members tier, that inner layer, please. And yeah, it's probably good for now. We'll save this Phil Stringer stuff for another time. And I also would like to revisit the Mandela effect stuff. There's actually several short videos that I want to do. One of them is actually pertaining to the whole Don Wilkins thing, but that's going to have to be further down the trail, because right now it takes a long time. You guys won't believe this, because most of you are probably just consumers of YouTube, not actually creating things. It takes probably 10 times longer to make a 10-minute video than it does an hour-long video like we just did. Who was it? I don't remember if it was Ronald Reagan or who it was, but somebody, maybe Woodrow Wilson. He said, basically, if you want me to talk for an hour, I can talk right now. If you want me to talk for half an hour, I need 2 days to prepare. If you want me to talk for 10, 15 minutes, I need a week. Something like this. And the reason for that is because you have to get rid of all of the things that you don't really need to say and figure out how to say all of this in a little bitty amount of time. And that prep time is not something that I have in the course of a week. It's not something that I have consistently. It's something that I would love to have. It would help viewership on the channel, I'm sure. But such as it is. Got a lot of work to do, guys. And I look forward to our interactions in the future. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. If you're like, hey, what about this? What about that? If you have something that you want to input that you're like, hey, Joseph, you forgot about this, whatever. Email it to me at BibleVersionConspiracy@gmail.com. And check out our website. So there's some interesting stuff up there. And more coming in the future. Main goal of this channel is to dig deep, find the problems in King James only arguments, because I've just assumed that they were great in the past. And when I start analyzing them and stuff, it's just like, well, actually, the core things I think are solid, but a lot of the things that come around it, they don't need to drag down the stuff that is necessary, the stuff that is true. We don't need to drag it down with the sensational things that just don't exist. And the non-issues and the misunderstandings and everything else. It's a lot. And I'm looking forward to going through all of it. I'm not going to say that I'll be able to get to the bottom of everything. I am not a scholar, but I am somebody who can look things up. And when I look things up and I find out that they're not true, I'm going to tell you. And maybe together we can try to help unravel what is going on behind the conspiracy behind the modern Bible translation debate. And start to see what's really going on. Oh, and just a side note, along the lines of our channel trailer. Hang on. There we go. Our channel trailer, which if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. I'll try to put it at the end of this video for your viewing pleasure. if you're seeing things in modern versions that don't add up, if you're seeing things in modern versions that are strange, possibly blatantly false, things that are confusing, things that are off, not off-putting, but unsettling in a way. You can't quite put your finger on it, but there's something going on. Email me. Let me know what you think. And I'd love to dig into it in the future. It may be part of a conspiracy that none of us saw coming. And contrary to what Dr. Richard Day said, those that do notice the difference won't be enough to matter. I believe it's time to start mattering. It's a tall order, and I'm looking forward to doing my best to get through all of this stuff. Like I said, where I see somebody that I respect, where I see somebody that I have admired, where I see somebody that is my friend, that when I see where that person is wrong, or where they're misleading people, they may be correct, I may agree with them on a bazillion things, but when there's something where I'm just like, I'm sorry, this is false information that we don't need to believe, and that if we do accept this false information along with all the good information that we're getting, it's just going to drag down the good information with just this blatantly untruthful and just untruthful I don't want to say information again, but you know what I mean. Can't have that kind of stuff. And when I see it, you're going to hear you're going to hear about it. When I see it, we can't. King James only people a lot of the time have a bad enough reputation as it is, honestly. And where there is something being spread by any of us that is false and verifiably false, it just needs to stop. I don't care how good it sounds. I don't care how good it preaches. I don't care how interesting and fascinating and whatever it is. If it's not true, it needs to stop. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to the end of this video. Thank you for being a friend of this ministry. And keep reading your King James Bible like the devil's after it. Because there truly is a Bible version conspiracy. And by the way, I would love to talk to you about it more. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.